Thank you for joining us today. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Sue Yang. I'm the instructional designer here on campus. My co-presenter today is Sally Potter. She is the interim DE coordinator. Um, and so we're both here today with you. Again, as I mentioned, this is the last session in our RSI workshop series for this semester. And today we're focusing on creating an interaction plan for your courses. So as we've done in the past two sessions, I'm sort of just going to give you an overview of RSI, what we have here on campus in regards to our RSI policy, and then we'll get into sort of the meat of today's session about the interaction plan and everything. And so for those that are new, this is a good review, introduction. But for those that have been with us, this is a good review as well too. So why RSI? So when we look at the research for online courses, the instructor interaction is such an essential part of online learning. And when there is instructor interaction and engagement, the students just have a better learning experience and just do better in the online courses. Not only that, but it's also federal and state law for specifically for distance education courses, which is what we teach here at City College. And additionally, if you did not know, this past year and a half or so, we had our accreditation review. And during that process, we had received a court inquiry about RSI and our DE courses. And so based on the accreditors' distance education rubric that they use to evaluate us, we did not pass. And so this gives us an opportunity to really examine RSI and really to provide all of the resources and the support that's needed to ensure that we are meeting RSI in our online classes. And that's why we're facilitating these workshops as well too. But again, I would recommend having these conversations with your colleagues in your divisions, in your departments about RSI in DE courses, and again, just sharing that information with all of your colleagues. And so distance education and RSI, our academic senate did pass an RSI policy, I believe in November 2023. And that policy, it has, some very solid guidance and a lot of information that's available for us. I think, I don't know, Sally, if you could put a copy of it for anyone who needs it in the chat there. We'll be using that to provide a brief overview about distance education and RSI. Now, the primary difference between distance education and correspondence courses is the presence of RSI. As an institution, we are not accredited to offer correspondence courses, and we don't receive any funding for these courses. And so if our courses are not found to have RSI, they would not be considered DE courses. And this also affects the allocation of financial aid funds that we receive as well too. So there are two components of RSI: interactions that are substantive and that the substantive interactions are regular. And so in the past, this was not clearly defined by federal law and until it was updated. And so now substantive interactions includes the following methods as listed: direct instruction, assessing or providing feedback on a student's coursework, providing information or responding to questions about the content of a course, facilitating a group discussion regarding the content of a course, and other instructional activities approved by the institution's accrediting agency. Primarily, most of us are going to fall between the A and D categories then. Now, the second component is the regular interaction, and these should be predictable and scheduled based on the length of the time and the amount of content in the course. Regular interaction also includes monitoring students' academic engagement and success by promptly and proactively engaging in substantive interactions with the student when needed. In our RSI policy, there's also additional guidance such as like the minimum required interactions, information about hybrid courses. And so that's also listed in our policy here. For example, on the second bullet there, it's for 18-week, 3-unit courses, the minimum required weekly interaction frequency is twice a week. And so you must engage in at least 2 different types of interaction, which were those 5 categories, but primarily for most of us will fall under the 4 categories that were listed under substantive interaction. We also want to mention that when accreditors are looking at our DE courses, they're only looking at fully online asynchronous courses. For hybrid courses or even summer courses, they're not looking at our summer courses. They're just assuming that because it's hybrid, the other part of it is already you're already being engaged with the students in the classroom in your assigned time that you're meeting with the students. And so we just want to make sure that everyone understands that. Okay, are there any questions so far? And again, if you have any specific questions about the RSI policy or the definitions or anything, you can feel free to put it in the chat, or if we don't get to it today, you can reach out to Sally and I and we can discuss this further with you as well. All right, but for today though, we are going to be reflecting on our interactions that we already have in our courses. I want you to think about what you are already doing in your online classes, where you are initiating that interaction. And you may already have a lot of this written out in your syllabus. You may already have a communication plan that you share with students in your syllabus or in Canvas. For those of us that use simple syllabus, we are looking at adding a communication plan section in there, so that way you can explicitly place this information in your syllabus so that students are aware of your interaction plan or your communication plan with students. It's not there yet, so don't look, but we're hoping to at least get that updated by fall. When it comes to assessing and providing feedback on student coursework, you may already also be using rubrics or providing students that personalized feedback using the assignment comments and whatnot, or you might be using the Speed Grader with annotations or video comments and everything. Are you, think about, are you facilitating class discussion using the discussion boards? Are you providing information and responding to questions about the course? So as we create this plan today, I just want you to reflect on what you are already doing that would fit into one of those 4 methods of substantive interaction. All right, we have a little activity here. I have your faces over here and I can't get to my folder, but I'm going to drop into the chat our interaction review here. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But just make sure you can click and view and download that. Sally, do you want to talk about this one here?
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so what we have here is an example from one of our colleagues, Tammy Camacho, and she has made a communication plan for the things that she is going to be doing for her students in one of her courses. And so, this is something that the students wouldn't see. She wouldn't be giving the students this document. These are just, her notes and kind of reminders and, to keep herself on schedule of the things that she would be doing each week to make sure that she is doing adequate RSI in her course. And so she's got two due dates for assignments for each week. So each Sunday, the students do an assignment, due Sunday evening. And then on Wednesday, there's a discussion that's due. And she follows that, week in and week out. She has the same yeah, don't leave that page, please. She's got the same schedule going. And so, so this makes it easier for her to follow the same schedule. If she has multiple courses, she might want to adjust the due date slightly so that she's not doing every single thing, on, for example, Monday, morning, she has to grade everything for all of her classes. But I just want to kind of go through these really quick. I know you can read them, but just to kind of talk about what some of this stuff means. So, so the assignment is due Sunday night, and then Monday morning when she wakes up, she does grading within the feedback, or sorry, within the speed grader. She gives her students personalized feedback. And then she also goes to the discussion that's due later in the week, and she makes a post there. And then on Tuesday, if she, for whatever reason, she hasn't finished all of the, the personalized feedback in the speed grader for that assignment, maybe, she got, off track, took her longer than she thought, maybe students are turning things in late. Tuesday she goes back and to that same assignment and finishes that up. And then when she's done with that, then she'll post an announcement in her course that talks about that assignment. So for example, talking about, well, a lot of students, missed this question or didn't, had trouble with this part of the assignment. So she wants to explain about that. Maybe she might also have seen something in the discussion for the students who are posting early that she wants to address. Then on Wednesday is just kind of her catch up day where she checks to see if any students have questions for her. She doesn't do any reaching out to the students, so she checks her inbox. She has a Q&A forum within her course where students regularly ask questions, need clarification, so she just checks on that. Then on Thursday, because remember the discussion is due Wednesday night, so Thursday she goes to the discussion, and now she replies to the discussion. She facilitates the discussion. And then remember, in order to have, adequate RSI for a discussion, that does not mean that you have to reply to every single post, okay, for all of your students. The idea is that you want to make sure that students see that you're there. They understand that that their teacher is in the discussion. And they can see you posting maybe every few uh, uh, student posts. She goes around and just gives them a short little reply. Maybe it's a kind of an encouragement, something that adds to the information, maybe asking some leading questions, giving some kind of clarification on the content, something that is going to facilitate the students to do critical thinking about the topic, and also make them maybe post again, maybe help their understanding and participate in the discussion. So then on Friday, she goes back to the discussion and finishes up anything that she didn't get a chance to do. She finishes up any grading that she missed from earlier in the week, and then she will post another announcement that's a recap of the activities, and then talk about what's going to be happening for the following week. So that's kind of her thinking in her scheduling of her communication. Okay, so we want to go to the next slide.
Oh, do you just want to show the,
Yeah, so I think, so did we get maybe we want to take a look at the RSI policy so we can see the letters real quick.
let me,
Okay. So what I'm looking at is maybe we can zoom in just a bit, where it shows under number 1 there on that page where it shows the substantive interaction types. So just want to talk about what this means. So these are the types of RSI, kind of defining, kind of breaking down RSI, so that they're categorized, right? So the first type is direct instruction, providing direct instruction. So that, so if you think about a face-to-face class, that is where you are, in your class, you're standing up front of your class, you're giving a lecture, you're talking to students, even giving them content or leading a discussion. So direct instruction would be, the way that you would do that in an online class is you would have some kind of a Zoom meeting where everyone's meeting at the same time. Even doing an office hour counts as direct instruction. So as long as you have it scheduled regularly, you have 1 hour per week, even if students don't show up, they have the opportunity to interact with you, to come to your office hour. So as long as you're doing that, it's in your syllabus, documented, and you're doing that. Or a lot of instructors have, even though their class is asynchronous, they have some kind of a weekly meeting at the same time. Students can pop in, do like a little mini lecture. They can ask questions at that time, and then that would be recorded, and then you send it to the students who don't get a chance to come. So that's what we mean by direct instruction. It's not making a video lecture and then pushing that out to your students. It's a time when you're together. So then we've got, so that's A. Then we've got B. So that's going to be assessing or providing feedback, usually within the speed grader, personalized for each student. C is providing information or responding to questions about the content of a course or competency. So that can be done in a number of ways. One kind of easy way to do that is through an announcement. Especially if they're regular, if you're doing an announcement once a week or twice a week, that is, going to count as a C. D is facilitating a group discussion. So what we mean by that is a discussion forum within your Canvas course, and one that is talking about the content of the course. Okay, so it's something that's related to the information in the COR. And then E is just kind of a catch-all if there's anything that wasn't covered in A, B, C, or D. So what we want to do is go back to the PowerPoint real quick. And if you could, I know it's kind of hard to keep those two things in your mind, the A, B, C, and D. But if we want to talk about, for each day here, which types of RSI is Tammy doing within her course? So on Monday, what do you think? Is that an A, B, C, or D? And you can just unmute and say it out loud. You can type your answer in the chat.
I say Monday would be B, speed grader with feedback.
Okay.
And also C, group discussion, because she's working on her initial post for the discussion.
Yeah. So she's in the discussion, but she's not
More like
she's right, like talking to the students. So if she is
C.
interacting with the students, then right, then that would be that would be one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so everybody agree with Monday is B?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you put the answer? Yay, B, yay. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so how about on Tuesday? So this is, finishing up the speed grader, posting an announcement about the assignment that she just graded.
Providing information. I think it was like D. I can't remember.
Okay. Anybody, everybody agree with that? Anybody have anything different? Okay, Sue. Okay, so that one is C. So, oh gosh, I don't have it in front of me. So yeah, so C is the one that talks about the giving information about the course content, like yes, there we go. Providing information or responding to questions about the content of the course. Okay, how about Wednesday? What do you think on Wednesday?
I think E.
Okay, so for Wednesday, so good try. So for Wednesday, yeah, actually this probably, depending on the Q&A forum, exactly how that is formatted, it's probably not going to count as RSI. So what she's doing here on Wednesday is so the students reach out to her and then she responds to the students. So for RSI, this has to be instructor initiated. So yeah, so that's just a little trick question there for you for Wednesday. Okay, and then for Thursday, for the discussion. You can put the answer for Thursday. Okay, yeah, so this is all about group discussions, facilitating those group discussions. Yeah, and then how about on Friday? Any ideas for Friday? I'll give you a hint. There's two answers there. Okay, what's
Maybe A and C?
you put the answer, Sue?
B.
Yeah, so B and C, right. So remember, A is direct instruction, so it's not included in any of those. And then I saw Elizabeth had a question, why does RSI have to be instructor initiated? So that is the law, okay? That's how the law reads. And really there's a lot of research that shows that the most effective way to best practices in an online class is for the instructor to do this really intentional, proactive reaching out to students and initiating the contact with the students. So it's the law, and there's a reason that it's the law. It's the most effective best practices. And then I think, okay, let's see. Okay, office hours for for part-time faculty. So this is a long answer, but try to keep this brief right now. We are, and this is recorded, so I have to be careful about what I say. We are in the middle of our union negotiating our next contract with the district. One of the things that myself, Sue, all of the instructional designers and DE coordinators in the district are very strongly advocating is for part-time faculty to be paid for one virtual office hour per week. And we are very much hoping that because we have the court inquiry on RSI that affects Fresno City College, and it does also affect Reedley, not so much Clovis and Madera, that we now have some leverage to make a case. Every time a new contract is negotiated, the union always asks for this, and they have never gotten it, as you may be aware. But I'm at least a little bit hopeful that this is something that is going to be at least on the table somewhat. If it doesn't exactly look like, 1 hour for 18 weeks, it may not, because it's in the middle of negotiating. But I'm very much hopeful that we can get there, and it would be very helpful. And I do realize that, as a part-timer, it is a burden. You definitely should not be doing work that you don't get paid for. However, I also know that a lot of our adjuncts do have office hours or a study hour every week. It's tremendously helpful. And, again, if no students show up, it still counts as an instance of RSI. So, I don't want to ask you to do work that you're not paid for, but, keeping that in mind. Okay, any other questions about any of this?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes.
And that is, hypothetically speaking, let's say you have your discussions per week, and and you as the instructor provide a discussion answer and a reply. Would that be considered to be part of, let's say, D? You're not necessarily interacting directly with all the students, but you're indirectly providing the correct answer to what you were looking for in the discussion posts. Would that count?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. So one strategy that a lot of faculty use is, maybe this is in the place of or in addition to popping into that discussion and kind of, replying here or there to faculty. So that is included in the, facilitating of a discussion. But another strategy, which would definitely count as an instance of RSI, is to kind of do maybe have like a summary of what was talked about in the discussion. So, so after all the posts are done and graded, you could make another post in the discussion, or even an announcement in the course that, says, well, this is what, this is what I asked you. This is what some people said this, some people said this. This is where, I need to clarify on this, that, you're on the right track on this. And, so doing that kind of thing, definitely an instance of RSI, for sure, especially when you're doing that kind of thing regularly, and students are expecting it. Yes, for sure. Does that answer your question, Susan?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay. Let's see.
Sally, I don't know if you want to touch on Jacqueline's contract. I know we're also talking with the union about that.
Yeah, so, I'm not 100% sure I understand what you mean by this, Jacqueline. Are you saying that, you would like to do an office hour, but you're worried that you shouldn't be doing it?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my concern is when we go ahead and, eventually have some type of maybe contractual information about the office hours. I'm not sure exactly, but the idea is that, it does meet RSI, but you're not going to get, adequately paid, or there's some other issues, or you're coming in when you're completely asynchronous for students that are not going to be there, but you're making RSI. It feels a little bit confusing. So there's issues for me there still with the office hours. This feels
Yeah,
confusing.
so I think I understand, you are free to make an office hour or a study hour or a study session. You absolutely are free to do that. You could even, record it and, and post it. If you give like a little mini lecture. And as especially, within the announcements, there is, some settings that you can turn on so that students can reply, and you can actually have like a discussion under the announcement. And, and that's all great. And that's all, good for your students, good to make sure that you're following RSI. And I think that, definitely, I would encourage anyone to do that. But I do understand that, it is difficult if you, if you feel like you're being expected to do extra work. You're definitely not, you're not required to do that. If your dean, tells you to do that, you should not be doing, you do not have to do that, but it's always an option for you. I have my virtual office hour on Monday morning that is at my convenience, not the students' convenience. And I hardly get anybody that comes in to my office hour. But just the fact that I have a Zoom open while I'm doing grading, my Monday morning grading, that does count as an instance of RSI. Does that you think that addresses your concerns?
Start. I like it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Carlos. Okay.
25th.
Let's see. I think
I win.
Carlos, we're having some
You weren't the
issues
only-
hearing you.
yeah, I'm not able to mute. I'm not I'm not
Sally, there was an
Oh.
additional
Oh, yes.
question by Janice about
Okay.
what the accreditation team can see. in
Oh,
regards
yes.
to?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, um, you may have heard, because at first, when the accreditation team was first given, um, access to the courses that they were reviewing, there were some things that they were not able to see, but that was quickly cleared up. And so they could see everything. They can see everything that the teacher can see. So they were able to go into the course itself, and these are archived courses. So they did the reviewing in fall 24 for spring 24 courses. Okay. So the courses were already finished, they were already done, and then they could look at everything that the teacher can see. So they could see all your announcements, everything that you put in the speed grader, all of that they could see. What they could not see, though, are inbox messages. So even though, that's part of our Canvas, they weren't able to see that. And then, of course, they're not able to see your emails. The person who was in charge of doing our there's a small team that reviews the courses, a group of 3 individuals, and the person that was leading that from the accreditation team that we had, she did say that she assumes that all faculty are inbox messaging their students, all faculty are reaching out by email to their students, and so she gave everybody basically credit for that. So there's a rubric that they use. She clicked that one for all the courses that she reviewed. So essentially, the requirement is to have 2 instances of RSI per week. So really, she was only looking for 1, because she kind of gave us as a default the first one. Does that make sense, Janice?
Maybe I misunderstood. I just had heard that some things are easier for them to see and some things they had to go find. Like maybe the announcements and discussions were easier.
Yeah, so it, think about, all the times if you've ever, looked at any of your colleagues' Canvas courses, right? The easiest thing to look at are announcements. These are people, they're trying to get through the review as fast as possible. They want to do like the easy pickings first. So typically the first thing that they look at is announcements. If you have a weekly announcement, and they have content in them, course content in them, then that's going to count as an instance of RSI. Then they're probably going to go to some discussions. It's probably the next easiest thing is to open up a few discussions, look and just make sure that you're in there. The hardest thing to do is going to be going into the speed grader, right? Because most people have multiple assignments. You have to kind of look around. You've got to make multiple clicks. And so that's probably the order that they're gonna, where they're gonna look for things. But it depends on the individual, and it really doesn't matter as long as you have your evidence there in your course.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, in terms of, responding to announcements, not responding to, are responding to inbox emails, you know, this is true. This is very true. You could, if you have some kind of an announcement that you want to make, you could just, copy paste and do both. Make the announcement, and then again, send the inbox message to everyone. And say, sorry for the repeated messages. Just want to make sure I got everyone, so that it is documented within your course. They could see comments in the rubric. Yeah. So within the rubric, there's the little boxes where you can leave, you can write feedback, and those are visible. Yeah. Yeah, so there's really no way, the way Canvas is set up, there's really no way for them to see the inbox messages because again, it's, you know, the courses are archived and they're looking at the course. They're not going into your Canvas account. That would be the only way. And there's just really no way to do that. Okay. Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and move on for the sake of time. I'm going to turn it back to Sue, but keep asking your questions in the inbox, and we're going to try to save a good amount of time for some questions at the end as well.
All right. I know there's a lot of questions around what, you know, I'm doing this in my course. Would this be considered RSI? Does this mean RSI? And so we'll get to those questions as well too. But as Sally mentioned, yes, please put them in the Q&A and we'll answer them at the end of this. But I wanted to give you some templates, some ideas as we're thinking about our interaction plan as well too. And the example that we shared, this one, if you teach your courses, and many of us teach our courses and structure it differently, depending on if it's a 18-week, 9-week, if it's a special cohort sort of set up for our DE courses. And so this interaction plan, build it so that it meets your schedule, your teaching needs and everything. But I'm just going to show you a couple different ways that you can set this up and you can decide which one works best for you. So as I mentioned, this was the one that we had shown with our colleague Tammy's schedule. So she teaches her classes on a weekly basis. And so she had due dates set for Sunday and Wednesday. And so she just aligned her interactions daily per week then. And so you can follow that method as well too. So each week, okay, so if I'm teaching a 9-week course, okay, I can make 9 weeks. What do I typically do on a Monday? Okay, I send an announcement or I open assignments that are due Wednesday or Friday. I have a discussion board where students participate. Just list your interactions and what it is that you're doing that week. And then after you list those interactions, again, look at those different methods for substantive interaction. Okay, I'm doing this, I'm grading, providing feedback. Oh, okay, yeah, this meets this method. I'm facilitating a discussion. Okay, yes, this meets this method. And then so for each of the interactions that you're doing, just mark which methods you're meeting. And so for each week, are you doing a minimum of at least 2 interactions? And of those interactions, are they meeting at least 2 of those 5 different methods? And if you are, then you're good for our RSI. Does that mean that you do less or do more? That's up to you. And if your schedule and your time permits. I know there's a lot of content, a lot of things that we have to get through in our courses as well too. And so again, we just want to make sure that you make a plan that works for yourself to make sure that there's RSI in your courses. I found a couple other templates here that I wanted to share as well too. This one is from Marshall University. And so along the top here, they've listed the different methods from the definition of substantive interaction. And then along the side, they list each week. So let's say, for example, week 1, I always send a welcome email and post an announcement in Canvas introducing myself, information about the course, my syllabus, the course materials, the activities that should be completed by the end of the week, and so on. And so that would be providing information on the course. How to engage with me, how to engage with the content in the course. I also have them participate in an introductions discussion, and I ask them to introduce themselves, why they took this course, what are their learning goals, what do they expect to get out of this course, and whatnot. And so that's for me facilitating a discussion, and I plan to go in and respond to each individual one, since this is the introductions discussion. And so again, I'm already meeting 2 of at least those different methods then, and I'm have at least 2 intentional interactions that I have that will meet RSI. And so you, for each week that you have, you can go in and make that list, complete the chart here, the table here, and create that list of interactions for yourself. Other ways to build your list, you can, if you are a Google user, you can create a plan in Google Docs here. This is an example from De Anza College, and so they've pretty much just listed all of their interactions in this first column here, and then they've indicated what week that takes place, any additional notes. What I would recommend here is also adding an additional column and just identifying which of those methods that you're meeting with that interaction. And in our example, sometimes the interaction, you're just, monitoring student progress. Are there students that are missing, that have not submitted any work yet? And so again, that's your, substantive and regular interaction that you're having in your classroom. And so it may not fit a specific method, but again, you're just monitoring student progress, making sure that they're keeping up with all of the activities in the class. And so again, you can use this to create your interaction plan, a Google Doc, to help you. Another way is to simply create a table, and you can create a table in Word or in Excel for those of us that or for those of you that are good at using Excel. Again, just depending on how you teach your course, by units, by chapters, by week, just list that out, and then what are the interactions that you're having. If you wanted to, you can create like how you're doing that, when you're doing that. And again, just, do I have at least 2? Am I doing at least 2 of those, 5 methods that are in the definition? And lastly, you can also, create a page that you don't publish in your modules for each week. And this is just a screenshot example, but this is my interaction plan for this week. I can keep it in there as a reminder for myself. Okay, this is when I said I was going to go do grading. This is when I said I was going to post announcements, just as a reminder for myself what I need to do that week. And then here's the content that I have for my students. And so again, I can create this page in Canvas with my interactions. If I wanted to, I could still identify which method that meets as well too, just to help me to, am I meeting at least 2 of those 5 methods and whatnot. But again, this is just something for myself to help me as I'm teaching the course, to make sure that I'm engaged and in the course with my students. One of the other things that I also wanted to mention is, based off of your interaction plan, once you've gone through and you've listed your interactions, you've identified, which method it meets for substantive interaction, are there things that you consistently do? So every Monday, I'm always posting announcements. Okay, so that's, predictable and that's scheduled. So I might include that information in my communication plan with the students. Every Monday, this is what you can expect from me. Am I always after major assignments? Am I always providing personalized feedback in SpeedGrader for them? if that's something that's consistent, then yes, I can also include that information in my communication plan. I expect, personalized responses and feedback for improvement on your assignments within, 72 hours or within, 3 days of the due date and whatnot. And so create this individual interaction plan for yourself, but then find out areas that you can share and be transparent with your students. And again, depending on your course, if you, some of us do work on Saturdays and Sundays because of our due dates and everything like that. Again, if it's a 18-week, 9-week course, however you design your course, whichever would work best for you. And then again, after writing your interactions, just going back to identify which substantive interaction method is being met by my interactions there. I do have, I'm going to put this link in the chat there, but in the virtual hub for faculty, I do want to thank Tammy Camacho for creating this page and also the video in there as well too. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, if you are interested in using any of the templates that I did mention, whether it's the day week one, or if it's the Canvas page or anything like that, I do have them linked at the bottom there. So feel free to copy and paste or create your own if you wanted to. But again, those resources are down there for you. Sally, what do you think? Do we have time or?
I think so. Maybe just about 5 minutes, not a real long time. And then we can come back and then go over a few more things and answer the questions that I know that you'll have when we come back.
Sure.
Yeah. I cannot do the breakout rooms. I
Yes.
do not have, no one may be the host.
All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to give you some time to talk to each other. And as we've been thinking about our interactions, about RSI and everything, we're going to place you in breakout groups where you, you share, what are, based off of what we've discussed today and previously, what are your RSI strengths? What are things that you're already doing well in your class? And then what are ways that you can improve your RSI in your class? And so those two questions will have you discuss with each other. So if you want to take a screenshot or just write these two questions down in so that you can reference them when we push you to your breakout groups. Let's see. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're still waiting for a couple more. Sounds like some great conversations going on.
Okay, they're back.
All right. Yes. Lots of good conversations. Just not enough time.
There is a couple questions here in the Q&A area. I tried to answer as many as I could. Some of the questions are repeated, so make sure that you scroll through there. Edward is asking about student to student interactions. Okay, so this is a really great question. The previous Title V language said instructor to student and student to student, but that has been changed. That is now, the only requirements are instructor to student interaction. However, most of our CORs and our distance education addenda do indicate that student to student interaction is required, because that is one of the boxes that is checked in Curricunet. So if that is the case for your course, which it probably is, then some student to student interaction is required according to your COR. However, in terms of, you know, accreditation, what they're looking for, they're not looking for that. So I hope that answers that question. And then Sal, of course, has the $1 million question. What will happen if instructors don't follow RSI in their online courses? And so this is a real serious issue. This is, you know, for accreditation. The college has to meet the ACCJC requirements in order to be an accredited college. We had a court inquiry on RSI, meaning that we did not meet it. What they were looking for, I think Sue may have mentioned this, but what they were looking for is, of the courses that they reviewed anonymously, we don't know who was reviewed and what courses they saw, but of the courses that they reviewed, fewer than 85% of those had adequate RSI. And so now they are going to write a report. We expect that we're gonna get the report in the fall that will, you know, officially formally say that. And then from that time, we have 18 months to make the correction. So they want to see all the things that we're doing as a college to improve. For example, these workshops right here, discussions that you're having in your departments, the flex day trainings, you know, all of those things are evidence of what we're doing to try to improve. And then they will come back in 18 months and they will do another review of another number of courses, you know, anonymously chosen, randomly chosen. And at that time, if we don't have the improvement of at least 85% of our courses meeting RSI, then we go on to the next step, which is a bad thing. So we don't want to get into that situation. Let's see. And then while we're talking about questions, I know that a lot of you were, you know, having some great conversations in your groups. Is there anything that you want to mention or you want to ask about right now? You can unmute and you can just say it out loud, or you could type it in the chat.
I think one of the best things you've said is just take what you're doing and make changes. It won't be overwhelming to do small things with what you're already doing. I think that's the best thing. I keep hearing, oh, I kind of do that. I just need to change this. So it sounds scary. It sounds like we're, you know, but it is required by law. It's things we can do, and it's not overwhelming if you just take it a little at a time.
Yeah, totally agree. We don't want, you know, we don't want anyone to spend their time doing you know, all this work, you know, just busting their butt to do something that is not really gonna give results, right? So that's why, you know, we're having these trainings, because everybody's doing this to some extent. But again, we want to make it easy for the accreditors to just check us off, you know, just verify that we're doing it. So to have the documentation, you know, just take the little extra steps of having the documentation in your courses, that's going to get us all the way there. Yeah. Thank you, Janice. Okay. Okay. So how many instances of RSI do you need for a 6-week course that is 2 credits? So the Academic Senate policy on RSI gives the example of a 3-unit course that is 18 weeks. And in that case, you should be doing at least 2 instances of RSI in that course. And then it says something to the effect of if the, whatever the units are or the number of weeks are, it needs to be commensurate or, proportional to that. So you got to do the multiplication on that. Divide by 2 and times by 3 or whatever. I'm an English teacher. I don't know. But keep it reasonable, right? So, if you have a 5-unit 6-week summer school course, this is going to be verging on like too many times that you're going to be expected to be interacting with students. So, keep it reasonable. What is reasonable? But, think in terms of that. Think in terms of, if you've got a 9-week course, it's a 3-unit, just double it. Maybe for most weeks, try to double it. That should be what you aim for. But it doesn't, doesn't necessarily have to be an exact formula. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to go back to this question in the Q&A. For a discussion, what do you have to do to make sure that it has RSI? So you want to just make sure that your presence is seen and felt by the students in the course. Every few of their posts, you want to respond to those. Not just, great job, I love what you said, but actual substantive content, leading questions, encouragement, clarifications, adding to what they say, making them think critically. That's what you want to do to facilitate that discussion. And then you want to try to get in there more than one day. So not just do that on one day, but at least 2 days, maybe even 3 different days, going back and just peppering your comments throughout the discussion. And then that way, for sure, that will be an instance of RSI. Documenting office hours. So the requirements are 2 different types of RSI per week. So if you have multiple office hours that you're doing online, that's great. That's very convenient for your students, but that still is just going to count as one single instance of RSI because it's one type. And then you'd also want to do something else, speed grader feedback, an announcement, facilitating a discussion, something like that. So I hope that answers that question. PowerPoint presentation with the voice lead count. So yeah, Mimi, it really depends. One way to think about it is for interaction, it should be something that you are doing in real time. So you are communicating with the students in real time. So if there is something like a video lecture that you could have prepared, weeks before the course starts, and then you post up there, probably, that is not going to count as an instance of RSI. Now, there are some ways to make it a little more interactive, like, embedding questions throughout, making it turning on the reply so that students can comment and you get in there and make some comments as well. But I think hopefully I answered that. Let's see.
Sally, it is 12:15.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But we'll stick around and answer additional questions or anything like that. But just a couple things so that in respect to everyone's time as well too. We do have a distance education RSI information webinar. This is being presented by the Chancellor's Office as well as our accreditor ACCJC, the statewide academic senate, as well as the statewide distance education coordinators organization. So they are doing a webinar next Tuesday. We do have a watch party in the Professional Development Center on campus if you would like to join us in person, or you can register separately to watch on your own. The registration link is on the RSI CVent page there, so you can watch at your own convenience as well too. If you are unable, I believe they should be recording, so if you just register, they'll send you the recording afterwards. But again, I'm not sure what's going to be presented, but I'm sure there's going to be some guidance and some additional information that we have not covered yet in our own series that the state will provide for us. Also, if you could complete our RSI workshop series survey that comes through Susie, that would be very helpful as we continue to plan these for the next academic year and everything like that too. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, if you're doing something great in your courses that you would love to share with everybody, let us know. Contact us, and we would love to collaborate and learn more from each other. But again, if you do have any questions, just reach out to Sally or I, but we will stick around and answer questions.